So I'm going to stop that container because what we're going to do next is we're going to actually mimic like code that we've written that we want to add into this container, because a container that just runs Apache, obviously what you could do, you could map a volume into var www httpd or var www html and serve from a local volume on your machine or on your Podman host through Apache, right? And that's one way to do that. You could certainly do it that way. But what a lot of people do, especially when they're making a container for an application, is they bake the application code right into the container image. And then they write it in such a way that it's happy running in a container, and it will use those external sources of data like volumes, like the MariaDB database did for us, where we just mapped in varlib MySQL, and it was very happy with that, for the persistent data points, right? So what we're going to do is, let me clear the screen again so you can see, we are going to bring in Scott's favorite application. Does anyone know what Scott's favorite application is? Scott's favorite web application?
Man.
It's Clumsy Bird. So imagine you're a developer, you wrote code, you probably put it into a Git repository somewhere. Now, if you're also the container maintainer, you might just put your container file right there along with your code. And then when the thing builds, it just copies the things it needs in and off it goes. But in my case, I'm not the maintainer of Clumsy Bird. I just want to build a container that runs Clumsy Bird. So I made an HTTPD container because that's the supporting service that Clumsy Bird needs to be served. And then I've used git clone to pull in the root, of the code for Clumsy Bird. Now I have to get it into my container image. And that is done by opening that container file back up. And there's a new command I'm going to show you called copy. Okay, now you could use this to copy in a script that you need to run. You could like copy that in and then have that run when the container starts up, or you can use copy to put in a web root. You can use copy to put anything that you need to put inside of this container. You use copy to copy things in with. So we're going to copy the clumsy MSY-bird. In fact, let me copy and paste this because clumsy is a hard word to spell. The last thing I need is to mess that up and then not be able to build properly. So we're going to copy from the working directory that we're building from, Clumsy Bird, into var www.html. And that'll do a recursive copy. You don't have to specify any extra commands to say do it recursively or whatever. It'll just take that directory and put it in var www.html. And then everything else we're going to leave the same. Go ahead.
I actually had tried this a while back. I was like, oh, I'll just use Git and direct Git pull it into my container environment. And then I realized that then my container environment also had to carry Git.
Yes, you can do it that way. And I have done it that way in the past, but there are better ways. And that better way would be to use a continuous integration workflow so that you're not cloning every time you're going to build the container. Instead, automation is doing it for you. Again, that's a little bit deeper than a beginner's course, but stuff like GitLab or GitHub or lots of other things will let you do continuous integration, where basically it runs a job. And what the job will do is set up your build environment, clone in the code that it needs, build your container, and then spit it out into a registry when it's done. So all the things I'm showing you manually here would be done with automation, which is really as it should be. But you need to know how to do it first, right? So here we are.
Of course.
Okay, so we're going to save this out. And now all we're going to do is really, I'm going to use my history command here to find the build command that I did before, because we're not going to change that. There's really no reason to. We updated the container file. We're going to have it build. It's going to replace the image that we built with the new image. Now, the cool thing about that layered file system that it uses for container images is it doesn't really care about the things that are already in the image, right? All it's really changing is from this line forward where I did the copy, right? Because the stuff before it, notice it didn't do the install of HTTPD. Otherwise, you would have seen the output of DNF right there. If we didn't have the Docker, the from line there, if we didn't have that image locally, it would have had to pull it down again. But since we didn't change it and it's still local, it didn't have to go pull it or anything. It only started making changes at the point where I made a change in the container file. which speeds up the workflows, right? If I had put this all the way at the end or right before entry point, it would have done nothing until it got to that line, put in the clumsy bird, and then did entry point. So now if you were to like get a diff of these two different images, which you will if you pull them from a remote registry, you'll only be getting the stuff that changed, which speeds up the transfers for stuff like that. Okay, so let's clear the screen off. And I did stop the other one. Yes, I did. We're going to rerun our application pretty much in the exact same way that we did before. You can see again, we're doing a Podman run. In fact, I think this is identical. We're running the myhttp that we created, and we're calling it myapp. Everything's good to go. If we run this, it should do the exact same thing it did before. If I do a Podman PS, you can see myhttp is up and running. I can't do this one with curl though, so give me a second here. I need to get my browser switched. Just a second here. Stop sharing this tab. I'll share a different tab. You're going to see a privacy error because I want to show you, just for the sake of clarity here, what I'm doing at the top of this screen that you can see, that you can't see, is I'm changing the URL, because what this was supposed to do was get me to the web console for this machine. That's what this security error is all about. But I'm just changing the URL. I'm taking away the HTTPS, changing it back to HTTP, and taking off the web console port. So when I hit enter now, we should get clumsy bird. There we go. So now we can actually...
I'm not the only one.
Yeah, right.
Bird.
I also don't play it that much.
Quick question. When
Sure.
you switch back to your terminal, what does the PS look like for your container that's running? Now, remember, we ran it as root, right? But who are the HTTPD processes running as out of that container image?
I think they'll be running as root, because I ran it as root.
Well, you see the question mark there for all the HTTPD foregrounds?
There.
Oh, they're running as Apache. Okay.
Oh, right. They'll run as Apache because that's what Apache runs as when it runs, right? When it calls up when it brings up its worker processes, it runs them as Apache. So that makes sense. That's what it should be running as.
Yeah. And then we can see the question marks there for its terminal, because it's like not bound to a terminal, right? It's running inside that containerized environment.
Right. Right. Now, I've been running everything in the background. There are cases where maybe you want to run something in the foreground. So for example, that UBI container. So if you do this -IT, which is interactive and in the terminal, instead of the -D that I did before, then what this will do is it'll run it in the foreground. And what was it? docker.io/redhat/UBI10, right? Now I actually get right there into the prompt. So if there's like monkey business I want to do in the image, now remember, this is all within the state of this container. There are ways to make changes to this container manually and then write it back out. There's a Podman, I forget what it is now. There's a Podman command that'll say, take this container and write it back to the image that it came from, right? So you could do that if you wanted to like manually build your container, or you could use Builda. Builda's another interactive way to build a container, right? So that's another thing. I think Podman build is actually using Builda in the background. It's just sucking in that container file instead of, to automatically build instead of doing it interactively. So yeah, this will feel a whole lot like a UBI or like a RHEL system, just like Scott was showing earlier in the Podman desktop application. And once I exit, that'll be effectively, I've closed the session and that container will stop. And because I use that RM command, it'll delete the container. So if I did a Podman PS now, you should have just the two we had running at the beginning. I already showed you how to get logs out of your container, but what if you need to actually get into the file system while it's running and troubleshoot something, or look for a path, or see where the permissions are set, or something like that? You can attach to an existing container and run a command within it. So if we do a podman exec, we're going to, again, do this in the foreground interactively. I'm going to run, the container that I want to connect to, what did I call it? myhttp. And we tell it what to run. Now, a lot of container images will sometimes include utilities that'll let you interact with the application. So, for example, the MariaDB container that we ran will have the MariaDB client tools in there too. So if you don't have MariaDB installed on your Podman host, which you probably wouldn't because it's a Podman host, not a database client, you can connect to the MariaDB container and run the MariaDB client to connect to the database to make changes to it if you needed to. So in this case, we're just going to run bash within myhttpd. And there we are. We have bash up and running. Now it's very much like I'm inside of it's like I've SSH'd into my web host. So if I go to var www.html, I should find Clumsy Bird in here. And there it is, right? So this is the directory structure that you would have expected or that you would have found inside of that Git repository that I had pulled down. And there you go. There's Clumsy Bird. But, you know, if I started up Clumsy Bird and it's like, I can't find a file, right? I couldn't load the application because of something or other. I could connect to the container, go to the directory, and I don't know, look at permissions, make sure the file is there, make sure there's not something weird going on, just like you would if you had SSH'd into a system. So another useful way for troubleshooting.